take a look. And I want you to take a smell. You're not going to say thank you after you smell it. Okay, pass it all the way down to this end. And then this is in the middle.
He's right.
Middle, middle, middle. And you guys are at the end.
Lots of flowers. That's
You like to eat that. And take a smell and then pass it around. Okie dokie. So here we are. I'm starting with the yucky smells. Starting with the yucky smelling silver. I mean, I think it stinks. Does anybody enjoy the smell of the silver plant? There you go. So we know what your favorite alcoholic drink is. Do you drink any absinthe? What's it called? How do you say it in English?
Absinthe.
Do you drink absinthe?
Only once or
Are you
twice.
absent for absinthe? Well, now you can make it
Well,
from
they
that.
say absinthe makes the heart grow fonder.
That was good. Thank you. Badoom, badoom. Okay, so absinthe makes the heart grow fonder. And we are looking over here at a bush of wormwood. Why am I allowed to mention wormwood on this tour? Because obviously it's a parable. Okay? La'ana in Hebrew. Even the word gets stuck in your throat. La'ana. Yes, ma'am. La'ana. Okay? It's wormwood. It is used in the description, if I'm not mistaken, it's in Proverbs for a lousy wife. Have you heard of that one? Oh.
Also,
How long have you been married?
50 years.
So you've been trained well.
Yes.
There we go. Okay. Adnev Esri. So it's wormwood. It makes a nice alcoholic drink, but on the other hand, it also a woman, a bitter woman, a not good wife, which I'm sure none of you know what that is. That's like opposites in one word. What is that called? Yeah, it's an oxymoron, a bad wife. No such thing. But I think it's Kohelet that talks about it. Maybe Mishlei, so I was right. It was Proverbs. Okay, and they talk about a bad wife, and it's like wormwood. Okay, so personally, I don't like the smell of it. It actually is used for coughs. Is that a question?
Also in Devarim and Nitzavim, it says Shorosh Porei Rosh V'La'ana, referring to a rebellious person who refuses to accept the breach and says, no, these curses aren't going to happen to me. By the way, Shimon Peres' name is encoded across that.
Okay, that's great. No politics on this tour. But thank you very much. That's super cool. And there, it's even in Devarim. I'm sorry. Can you repeat it better? In Devarim, it talks about in Nitzavim, Parshat Nitzavim, when it talks about one who does not accept upon himself the yoke of being under Hashem's rule, he is called la'ana.
Shoresh.
Shorosh Porei Rosh V'La'ana.
Shoresh.
A root that sprouts. Rosh is
A head?
No, Rosh is also a plant, and La'ana is wormwood.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So one who is rebellious is compared to the wormwood. Okay. Again, if they didn't know what wormwood was, they wouldn't be using it. So already you can, in the 1920s, and even before then, do you all remember the pushka boxes? Okay, you're giving money for cacao, you're giving money for the blue and white boxes because you want to plant trees in Israel. What happened though in the time, those who were in charge of which trees were planting in Israel were coming from Ashkenazi European backgrounds. And if I tell a Canadian, take $10, plant a tree, what's he going to plant? And if I tell a Floridian, go take $10 and plant a tree, what's he going to plant? An orange or a coke. I was thinking coconut grove, but that's okay too. Now, if you tell people from Poland and Russia, here's $10, go plant a tree, very often they're going to plant pine trees. Okay, unfortunately, those are not the trees that belong in Israel. So they weren't exactly connected to this over here. Okay, if you look in here, you're going to see the trees that are from Israel, belong in Israel, and that's what the whole new movement of planting new trees in Israel now is going back to the sources. And all along Highway 1, you don't see anymore. The corridor used to be coming up to Jerusalem in the 70s and 80s, it was all pine trees. Now they're going back to the carobs, and they're going back to the Judas tree, which is the one that has those pretty pink flowers, and they're going back to the almond trees. What?
So the arsonists were good for something.
There you go. Okay. I'm not going to repeat that, but okay. So we're going back to what is originally on the land. So that's why if I'm talking about wormwood already in the time of Devarim, okay, we're not getting into theological issues, when was Devarim written and by who. I'm just going to take it as a blanket that if we're talking about Rabbi Bina's wife, we're going to say Devarim, we're talking about the time of Devarim. Oh, can I say that? Sure. That's okay? Okay. So if we're doing that, already wormwood. This is an ancient part of Israel, and they understood it. Okay? So that's important to understand, that there's no plants that are, you're not going to find a Jaffa orange in here. In fact, you're not even going to find a carob in here. Carobs are mentioned, I think it's 600 times in Talmud and Mishnah, but they're not mentioned at all in Tanakh. Why is that? I do not know. There's a lot of explanations, but I'm just showing you. If it already is mentioned in here, it means that they knew about this tree. Something else I can mention while you're still sitting. Did you see those pretty flowers I passed around to you? Okay? That is a pomegranate. Some of them actually are the way they should be, and they actually look like a Star of David. Any of you guys get the ones that look like the Star of David? Okay, that most of the time they even have 6 points. So they look like that. And this is one of the only fruits I know about that even when the fruit comes, the flower is still here. Okay? And where are these, which garment do we have that also has these on it? Okay, very good. So it's one of the 7 species. It's a bell of a Kohen Gadol. And when they talk about pomegranates in Shir HaShirim, what do they talk about? Right. Okay? Her cheeks. Don't you see my cheek? My cheek looks like a pomegranate. Yes. The tapuach in Shir HaShirim is very likely not a tapuach. Very likely it's a hawthorn, and there are some right over here. And I won't stop there, but I'll point it out to you.
It says it's an etrog.
Yes. Yes. And until the gentleman is saying, what's your name? Reuben. Can I get anyone here called Alon or something? Thank you though, Reuben. It's a cool name anyway. So Reuben mentioned that the tapuach in Shir HaShirim is possibly an etrog. You're going to get the modern people who would say mapitom, an etrog comes from a whole different area of the world, that it was only brought here recently and it's not possible. Then the time when they were waving around and doing all kinds of procedures with an etrog, that it really was an etrog. It only says a goodly fruit in the Bible, so it probably wasn't that. Something cool that just came up though, have any of you been to Ramat Rachel?
Yeah.
And have you been to the excavations in the parking lot of Ramat Rachel? Totally recommend it. It's free. Go to the parking lot of Ramat Rachel, and literally adjacent to it is a summer palace for those that want to, like the Hamptons of a long time ago. Okay? Kings, royal kings from the First Temple period didn't want to be in the congested part of Ir David, and they had their vacation, their Bein Hazmanim in Ramat Rachel. What did they uncover in Ramat Rachel except for a gorgeous palace and all the other kind of stuff? Plaster, in the plaster of the walls of the palace from the time of the First Temple period, they actually find etrog pollen. Now how cool is that? That means that not only did they import the etrogs, but they were growing etrogs already. And I'm sorry if I'm saying etrogs are not etrogim, okay? Just, write that down too. But that's it, okay? So if you're already talking about that they were growing orchards that had etrogs, then yes, I can say, who wrote Shir HaShirim? Okay, so Shlomo Melech writes Shir HaShirim, so it is also possible that he actually had a grove of etrogs, and that it could have been an etrog. But otherwise, there's nothing wrong with saying it could be a hawthorn or also possibly an apricot.
If we kept the Arba Minim from the time we entered Eretz Yisrael,
Right.
we assume that they were etrog.
Correct. So Reuben is saying that if we are already doing Arba Taminim from the time we enter Eretz Yisrael, and the whole Arba Taminim are a mashal nimshal also to our progressive states of going from slavery to freedom. Okay, because when we cross over the Jordan River, what's growing next to the Jordan River? Which one of the 4 species? Come on, guys, you can't make mistakes. Okay, in the desert, we're tamarim, right. So we get the lulav checklist. In the desert, lulav. We're crossing over, we get the aravos, right? Because that's growing next to water. we need to get into the hillside and start planting, so we're clearing away our hadassim, okay, because they grow wild here. And only when we're totally having free time and we're sitting down under our grapes and figs do we have time to do something, cultivate something as challenging as an etrog. Okay, so it's really showing the whole history of Am Yisrael, right? So that's a mashal too. So about the pomegranate, give me some mashals you have about pomegranates.
613
Mitzvahs, correct. Something else that was said today, yesterday, whenever. But I just want you to know that I can find a different source that says that what they did was, it's actually an organic pomegranate company that makes pomegranate juice in America, and they actually counted a bunch of them, not just one. And on the average, it did come out to 613. How cool is that? Okay, next. Mitzvahs, women, right? Women are called fertile as a pomegranate. Mitzvahs like Rimon. There's a lot of mashalim, and that's it for sitting down. Are you ready to follow me?
Are you on one of these pages or no?
What?
No.
What?
This wasn't here.
I don't remember.
Okay, no problem.